This morning, Russia resumed its missile attacks against Ukraine. So far, those attacks blamed for the death of at least 6 people and knocked a nuclear power plant in Zaporizhia offline. That plant has since been reconnected, but thousands are still without power or heat, many of those in the capital city of Kyiv. The power plant was running on a backup generator for a time. For more on this morning, I want to bring in national security and political analyst and the host of the Independent Americans podcast and our friend, Paul Rieckhoff. Paul, good morning to you. I want to start with the attacks on the infrastructure. It has been Russia's MO since the beginning of this war. What does it tell you now, targeting Zaporizhia, the plant there, and them continuing to have to pivot on their strategy?
I think that Putin wants to continue to disrupt as much as possible and create instability, not just in Ukraine, but throughout the world. And I think the power plant in Zaporizhia is maybe an underreported story. This is the biggest nuke plant in Europe, and it hasn't been secure. They're running on backup generators right now, diesel generators. That should worry not just the Ukrainians and the Russians, but all Americans. So I think that's one area of focus. And then simultaneously, we've got a new wave of missile attacks coming from Russia, led by the hypersonic missiles, which are really the best missiles that Russia's got. They sent about half a dozen of those. Then they sent some more traditional missiles and then followed it with a final wave of Iranian drones. So they're going to continue to try to use what they can. They may be running low on bodies because they've sent so many human waves. We know they may be running low on artillery over time. That's why they've reached out to China and others. So they're going to continue to pull from what they've got and try to inflict mass casualties and inflict chaos across Ukraine.
Ukraine's done a pretty good job defending itself and its infrastructure. What more could they be doing to protect places like Zaporizhia from causing massive power outages like we're seeing?
I think, NATO and the world could do more to try to create a safe zone around Zaporizhia. I think we're all playing with fire here that they haven't done that sooner. I think they can obviously increase the anti-missile, anti-aircraft facilities like they've got on the ground. We've got American Patriot missiles on the way. And then there are still calls for American F-16, so they can do deeper strikes behind Russian lines, even into Russian territory. I think that's an interesting edge to watch. I've frankly been surprised that Ukraine hasn't struck more often, more deeply into Russia. And I think that could be a forward edge. But the bottom line here, Marnie, is that we're into spring now. It's getting more brutal. It's getting more bloody. It's getting more expensive. And it looks like there's no end in sight. And that's what Putin wants. He wants to drag this out. He wants to wear out the Ukrainians, and he wants to wear out the West. And he wants to wear out the political support here at home in the U.S. and especially in places like Germany and France.
And to your point, winter has largely caused a stalemate on the battlefield, right, as we expected. But as spring comes, do you expect more bloody battles?
Yes. I think, bloody is the new normal. I think that this is the bloodiest war we've really seen since World War II. The scope and scale of this, you've got an 800-mile front out in the east where you've got trench warfare that we haven't seen since World War I. When we were in the U.S. military, the longest engagements you'd have is maybe a few days or a few weeks. Now we're talking about extended engagements of a few months that really we haven't seen in modern times. So this is a uniquely difficult, extended, bloody, brutal kind of combat that really shows no end in sight. So I think we've got to brace for it. This could take not just months, but even years. And that, again, is what Putin wants. He wants to drain us. He wants to pull us deeper in. And China's watching. So they're keeping their eyes on Taiwan. They're monitoring the global situation. They continue to be really careful and strategic in how and when and if they support Putin and Russia in Ukraine and beyond.
Yeah, not just watching, but considering their own role in it. I want to get your thoughts on this, Paul. There was a report from our partners at The Hill this morning. There is a region of Moldova, Transnistria, which has close ties to Moscow. It claims an assassination attempt was made against its president by Ukraine's national security forces. Ukraine has now responded to this, saying it should be considered exclusively as a provocation orchestrated by the Kremlin. So propaganda, essentially. What do you make of this development?
Well, I've covered this on my podcast. I think Moldova is another underreported part of this conflict. Putin wants to make a play for Moldova. He's said that before. He's insinuated that before. I think the Moldovians are concerned. I think the Ukrainians are concerned. And he may be looking for a reason. Whether this happened or it didn't happen, I don't think that Putin is going to be hard-pressed to try to find a reason to extend this conflict. He can't push into Poland because there's so much support from NATO there. And Moldova would be probably the most likely place for him to try to extend this this war. So I think it's an area to watch. We've got to stay vigilant. And everyone right now should be Googling Moldova. Find out all you can about that area, because it's something you may be hearing a lot more about in the weeks to come.
The other thing you and I have spoke about many times is Afghanistan and the U.S. withdrawal. We heard emotional testimony from military veterans about that in the last couple of days. I want to play a portion for folks at home, and then we'll talk about it, Paul.
The withdrawal was a catastrophe, in my opinion, and there was an inexcusable lack of accountability and negligence. The 11 Marines, 1 sailor, and 1 soldier that were murdered that day have not been answered for.
And I do want to point out that the Afghan American Foundation says no Afghans were at this hearing to discuss what happened with the U.S. withdrawal and those devastating moments, and also that there's a lot of political posturing going on. What was your takeaway from that emotional testimony and the fact that the hearing is taking place?
Well, top line, I think it's good that the hearings are taking place, but we need more than just rhetoric. We need action. I think it was ridiculous, outrageous, and shameful that no Afghans were allowed to testify. They couldn't speak for themselves, even Afghan Americans, who are an important part of this dialogue. And when it comes to Sergeant Vargas Andrews, he's a Marine Corps sniper. He lost his arm. He had his abdomen cut open. He's got 150 ball bearings inside his body right now from that debacle of a withdrawal. And I think his testimony is something every American should watch. His emotion, his outrage reflects what I see from veterans across all political spectrums. I think the withdrawal was a true debacle. I think that crosses all partisan lines. That's not a partisan attack. It was really a mess. And you're hearing now from Marines on the ground who felt like they were abandoned. And maybe most importantly, Marnie, not a single leader in Washington was ever fired for all of that. We lost Marines, we lost a corpsman, we lost people in what was obviously a mess, and no one in Washington was ever held accountable. The only people that have been held accountable is Marines like the one you heard from, who have to deal with injuries for the rest of their life. So I hope maybe we can get some bipartisan unity around this, and we can get some real accountability for failure, also so we can learn from our mistakes and be better for next time.
Who else would you like to hear from in these hearings, and what does oversight, action, and accountability look like?
I mean, I'd love to hear from the president. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think we definitely need to hear from Secretary of State Blinken. Why didn't they predict what was happening? Why didn't they stay on top of this? And from National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. I don't think he's been held accountable at all. He's the advisor to the president. His job is to anticipate what was going to happen. And many of us who've been in the military, who've been on the ground, were warning that the Taliban could move quickly, that Kabul could fall, and that was dismissed. They didn't stay ahead of it. And in the end of the day, Marines paid the price for it. So we need to find out who will be held accountable. Anybody in the military, in the political structure, in State Department, who will be held accountable for that failure? And will they even admit that there were failures? Because it seems like the Biden administration doesn't want to talk about this, and they want to put it in their rearview mirror and move on. But we can't move on as veterans, and our friends who are still fighting and dying in Afghanistan, they can't move on either.
Paul Rieckhoff, national security and political analyst, host of the Independent Americans podcast. As always, thank you.
Thank you, Marnie.